lived a woman called Heléne. In this story she's a woman, in other stories she is a goddess. But in this story she is a woman who knew a lot about herbs, how to heal with herbs. She was wise, and she also knew the art of shape-shifting. Berättarkväll. The greatest joy in her life, it was her daughter. She was so sweet as a rose in May. And the greatest grief in her life was her son. He was so ugly. He was so ugly, people got scared of him. They didn't want to be with him. They called him utter darkness, Afagde, in their language. And Heléne was very worried about how her son would have a future among free men when people didn't want him by their side. They rejected him. And she was thinking, and she was looking in her books, and she found a recipe of a draught that would give 3 drops of inspiration. The one who swallowed these 3 drops of inspiration would be all wise, could look back in the past, be very present in the now, and also could see what was coming towards one in the future. One would be a great poet, a bard. And in those days, a bard was a very important person. In the recipe it was said that one should gather herbs in different places on different times of the day. And then one should put all the herbs in a cauldron, in kittel, put lots of water from a well in it, and then let it boil for 1 year and 1 day, until it was just a little puddle in the bottom of the kettle. And those were the 3 drops of inspiration that would give her son a future. Well, Heléne couldn't do that work herself, so she found an old blind man and his friend, a young boy who had very bright, clear eyes, who could see for them both. And this boy was called Guillaume, which means little one. So Guillaume and the old blind man, they went into the forest to a clearing, and in the clearing was the cauldron, the water was there, the herbs were there. Heléne told them to feed the fire, to stir in the boiling cauldron, but not taste it. They didn't have to, they were not allowed to taste it, and they promised not to taste it. So Heléne went home again, and the year went on. It was summer then, but summer turned to autumn with coldness and darkness, and then came winter with snow crystals and stars in the sky. Everything was frozen, but they were feeding the fire and stirring in the cauldron, doing the work, the old man and the young boy. And the night came back. Warm winds, the snow began to melt, and soon spring was there again, with all the flowers and all the birds, and yes, this freshness of the spring turned into summer. And they were still feeding the fire and boiling, and so came this last day, and it was just like a little pearl in the bottom of the cauldron. And Guillaume knew that Heléne would come that day and fetch this little pearl of the inspirational draught to her son. Then, suddenly, this little puddle flew up in the landed on his thumb. It was hot. He put the thumb in his mouth to cool down his thumb. He swallowed it with 3 drops of inspiration. Everything changed. He could hear the wind whispering secrets through the leaves in the trees. He thought he heard the stream murmur something, and soon he just rose up to the sky. He was up in the stars, looking down on the forest, on the clearing, on the cauldron. And then he saw Caridwen, and he knew he had to get back to his body. And he rushed into the forest, because he knew Caridwen would be very angry with him. And right he was. Caridwen came into the clearing. She saw how the cauldron just cropped in two. It was dry. There was no drops of inspiration there for her son. And she hit the old man who said he was innocent. And then she knew it was Gwion, the little one, had swallowed the 3 drops of inspiration. She rushed into the forest after Gwion. And Gwion was running as quick as he could, but he knew he wasn't quick enough. And he thought that he had to